Well, good morning, friends. Gonna get back at this old Datsun 720 after being away for a few days for some family commitments. Today we're gonna look again and see why we've got no spark. That's probably gonna be the prime thing, so let's get after it. Okay, got a battery connected up. Gonna get in here and turn the key to the on position. And let's see what we've got for voltage on each of these coils. We'll set ourselves up on the 20 volt range. And let's grab a ground, which we conveniently have right here, I think. Yep. And is it even a good ground? This might be another ground that we have to do some work on. Got no voltage at all on these coils if this is a good ground. That showed a little bit of voltage. Huh. What's our battery voltage look like? Battery's at 12 volts. Let's make sure I switch the key on all the way. I guess that's an important thing. Okay. Now we've got key on. If you're actually going to test it properly, you should make sure your key is in the right position. So that coil's got 11.8 kind of floating. There's a better ground. Okay. And that terminal will show the same. Oh, and the back coil is dead. Well, this is good, which means when I did this spark check, I did it on the exhaust side spark plugs. And this means that we probably do have spark just on the intake side plugs. So what we're going to do is put this guy back together on the exhaust side, and we will pick a spark plug on the intake side, and we'll look and see if we've got some spark there. What's convenient? Oh, how about that one? What the heck? If we can get the boot off without destroying everything, that would be nice, because I don't have another set of plug wires. Actually had to wait a few days to get some more parts in. I don't know if this thing's going to need it or not, but I bought a water pump. I was already buying a temperature sending unit because the wire came out of the middle of this one. So let's see if we've got some spark now. All right, everybody can see that now. Let's go ahead and crank this over. All right. You tell me if you saw spark. I couldn't see it. I was inside. Well, I still can't tell if there's spark or not on that, so I'm going to have to get my other spark tester out in a while and take a look. But we know from the wiring diagram, if we've got 12 volts on one side of one of the coils and not the other, there's possibly a wiring problem. There's either a blown fuse or possibly a wiring problem outside of the fuse block, or it could even be a shorted condenser. So we're going to look for that condenser and do a voltage check there and see if we got voltage coming out, because this fuse block is kind of a mess, being that this thing is 40 plus years old. So we'll check for some voltages there, and we'll see what that looks like. Well, call me shocked, but after digging around looking for a condenser forever, I determined that this is the condenser wiring and somebody has done a condenser delete. So, at least I found the connectors to test it on. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get our key turned back on, and I'm going to verify one more time the voltages that we were looking at before. So I'll use this ground, and on the brown, have I just not turned it over again all the way? You'd think I'd know how to start a vehicle after all these years being on Earth, but apparently I do not, or I'm doing something horribly wrong. So let's look here again. I just have a real crappy ground, I'm pretty sure is what the deal is. So, okay, there we go. So our good one is the brown wire, and our bad one is the white yellow wire. So our brown one here in the harness will have 12 volts, which it does, and our other wire has like next to no volts. So this connection here inside this that goes to the condenser, it's the same connection that goes to the coil, and with it reading low, that tells me that we have a problem between the fuse block in here or the fuse itself. So let's take a look at that. All right, this might be a little bit difficult to see, but the fuse block on this thing's up underneath here. So I've already got one lead to the meter hooked to a ground. I'm going to spin the ignition over. So we're hot now, and one of the leads, one of the wires, I guess I should say, there's our 12 volts on one of the fuses. And there's our 12 volts on one of the other fuses. So we've either got a filthy fuse socket or we've got a wiring problem between that fuse holder and the wiring up front. So that's what we're going to be looking at next. Okay, so I just popped out the fuses. They looked a little bit corroded. So I went ahead and cleaned up the terminals and shot some of my terminal cleaner in there as well. Now let's see what we've got for voltages over here. Let me set this guy up where I think you'll be able to see it a little bit easier. So there's a ground. There's 12 volts. And there's 12 volts. Cool. So, dirty fuse holder. I'm telling you guys, I swear by this deoxit stuff. I've been using deoxit or a variant of this stuff for probably close to 45 years now. I used it when I was in the Air Force as an electronics technician. This stuff will work miracles, and it's worth having a couple little cans of it around just to clean up those old connectors. So now that we know that we are good here, I'm going to bring my visual spark checker out here in a little bit. We're going to go ahead and check for some spark. And if we've got some spark, the next thing to do will be to dump a little bit of fuel in this carburetor and see if this thing will at least catch. Well, it's likely it's going to be nearly impossible to see on camera, but I'm going to try to film it anyway. I actually do have spark. I can see good spark there now. So the next thing to do then will be to give this thing a little bit of fuel and see if we can get it to at least catch. Well, now that we know we've got spark, I wanted to make sure the choke works on this carburetor, and what I did is I just put a jumper between the battery hot and the electric choke on this. The choke is opening, so before we dump some fuel in this, one last thing to do is to make sure we've got some vacuum advance hooked up to the distributor. So I'm going to go ahead and get a line in place for that. Other than the brake booster, this is going to be the only vacuum that's on this thing. So let's get it routed around here. May as well just go through this hoist bracket here. And where's our port? There it is right there. So we'll give ourselves a little bit to spare. Trim it off. Go down back behind and under a little bit. There's the vacuum port on the distributor. So we've got that in place. And the next thing to do is going to be to dump a little bit of fuel in this carburetor. See what it's going to do. A guy that I see on YouTube recommends using a little gas with 2-stroke oil in it. So that's what we're going to do. And let's see if this guy wants to catch for us a little bit now. This should be exciting. Hoping for great things. Let's see. Okay, so I'm seriously going to call that a win. Was it beautiful? No. Did it idle? Not really. But god dang it, that is seriously a win right there. I think what I'm going to do next is... what am I going to do next? Actually, I wanted to check that oil pressure sending unit to see if it was the sending unit that's bad or my gauge that's inside is bad. I've got a dummy light for oil pressure that's on, and I've got a gauge that currently reads 0. So I know those two things kind of match up, and that really does mean something a little bit. However, that whole sending unit could be bad. There could be a ground issue. Who knows? So with that thing at least attempting to fire a little bit, we need to make sure we've got some oil pressure on this guy too. So that will be the next step. Let me get some things ready for that. Okay, so I pulled the connector, which you can see down here, off of the oil pressure sending unit. And I grounded the terminal up here. There's 2 terminals in there. One's for the dummy light and the other one's for the gauge. I know the dummy light's working because it's actually come off since I've been cranking on it. So I'm going to walk around here now and we'll turn the ignition on. And let's see, this pressure gauge should go to 90. So let's see what we get. Yep, there it's climbing. So what that means is our wiring's good and our gauge is good. So quite likely we've either got a dirty connector on that sending unit or we've got a bad sending unit. My take is going to be on a bad sending unit. So first thing I'm going to do though, you guys knew it was coming, the deoxit. I'm going to spray some deoxit in this connector. And on the sending unit itself down there, we'll work it in a little bit, let it do its magic, and we'll see what happens in a few minutes. Well, I came back to it a few minutes later. I worked that connector on and off that oil pressure sending unit several times, and it's that was no fix just by cleaning the connector, so I'm going to have to order a oil pressure sending unit. So that's probably going to be it for this time. Next time around, we'll replace that oil pressure sending unit. We'll put in a new water temp sensing unit. We may put in that clutch master, and then we're going to look at timing on this guy too. Make sure that our timing and our plug wires are all in the right place, just to make sure, because when it did run, it was pretty darn rough. So again, that's going to do it for this time. If y'all wouldn't mind helping an old guy out, please subscribe and give the videos a like if you feel like it. Thanks. We'll see everybody next time.